Now, what we're about to talk about in this video is absolutely crazy, probably so wild you have doubts yourself. But that's why we're here, and today we'll break down exactly what this incredible feature is that we might see come in the 25 ZR1 Corvette, how we discovered it, and what led to this wild conclusion. I'm pretty sure anyone anywhere who knows a thing or two about this particular Corvette or has interest in its debut will be stunned and should definitely not miss this juicy tale. Let's get right into it. Now, it is important to state that this is just speculation. GM hasn't said anything official to confirm it, but according to a lot of days' work put into research of the details that may as well act as confirmation to this news by the guy at Supercar Ranch, this could actually be a real thing. So, what exactly is it? The 2025 ZR1 Corvette could have an engine that's both supercharged and turbocharged. Now, don't chew me raw for saying that. I mean, I mainly reiterated what a video this channel, Supercar Ranch, made some weeks ago. I put a link to that video in the description in case you'd like to check it after watching this. But after giving it some thought, I decided what he said could be, because why not? I mean, we've seen everything but that in the Corvette lineup already, and the ZR1 is supposedly believed to be coming with something unthinkable, never before seen on any Corvette prior to it. And that idea, I believe, is clearly unthinkable in my books. Notwithstanding though, this guy had some really interesting research work which led to that speculation. All I request is you hear it out before ruling the idea as totally crazy. So first, he compared a set of teaser videos released by Chevrolet, which featured the ZR1, Z06, and Stingray's release. Now, he insisted there was a lot one could learn just from listening to the sounds the engine on all three cars made side by side by side. To get the full idea, here's the clip from that comparison. Now, the ZR1 clip was released merely weeks ago, but that's a teaser of the Z06 from 2 years ago and the Stingrays from 2019. Now listening to that, it is somewhat evident the ZR1 sounds more like the Stingray and its LT2 than it does the Z06 and its LT6, and that's exactly the point Supercar Ranch made. He believed the engine to come within the ZR1 wouldn't just be a Z06 remake with turbos slapped on, it clearly sounds different, and I believe it is as well clear to all of us from that clip. He went on to say he believed the cause of this difference was due to the flat plane crank engine lacking in the ZR1. So, in plain terms, the ZR1 will not have a flat plane crank engine. However, he made the point of stating he didn't believe the LT2 from the Stingray and E-Ray were just going to be remade and turbos slapped on as well. It wouldn't be that either. So, something entirely different from what we know could be introduced. So now, the interesting part where a lot of research went in, he starts off by analyzing a part in the parts catalog of a turbo inlet adapter, which sounds boring at first, but what do you know? Turns out there's a lot you can gather from these things. So, this seemingly got leaked a couple of months ago, and as a result, attracted posts online on many forums. One published on CorvetteBlogger.com listed the specifications in this catalog as the engine being an LT7, engine gas, 5.5 liter, DI, VVT, AFM, SC turbo, DOHC. Now, obviously there's a lot of abbreviation here, but this guy shares why the particular one named SC Turbo trips him. So, we're made to understand that initially it was understood that sometimes in parts catalogs, RPO codes include terms like SC and turbo together because GM doesn't specify the exact type of forced induction, and that made sense for a while. However, a closer look at GM's catalog shows this isn't true. For example, the LS9 in the C6 ZR1 is listed as just SC, and the LSA, also supercharged, is labeled SC, while turbocharged engines unrelated to the Corvette are marked simply as turbocharged or twin turbo. Nowhere else in GM's catalog combines SC and turbo for an engine description, making the SC turbo label for the LT7 unique and noteworthy. That's the point this guy obviously drives home, but that doesn't necessarily confirm his speculations. So what next? Well, here comes an interesting observation to dwell on, but right before we go into that, if you think you're getting value from this video in any way, please show us your support by subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Thank you for doing that. So, back into it. Remember that teaser video? Well, the words there were clearly, the unthinkable is coming this summer. And with the clever minds, the GM marketing team, behind this, we can be sure they knew different people will give that word unthinkable different meanings. And well, what we can be sure of is that it certainly does mean something interesting, which Supercar Ranch rightly points out. He goes on to remind that something new will come to this car. It's not just that it's turbocharged, they've done that with other cars. It's not that it's supercharged, they've done that too. It won't have a flat plane crank or all-wheel drive. They've already explored those features. This isn't going to be anything typical within the Corvette or GM world. It's going to be something significantly different, something GM has never done before. This suggests a new development, whether in the engine, the driving experience, or something entirely unique, unlike anything seen in any previous Corvette. This logic seems pretty sane to me, to be exact, and I couldn't agree more. However, there's more. Apparently, there was a claim that GM was merely trolling because just a week later, they had something else on the parts catalog released, which listed the LT7 engine as a 4.3-liter diesel V6. Now, our guy obviously has something to say about this, as opposed to the dismissal perspective of others with the view that GM was just kind of throwing people of. He didn't think that the case, and as he explains, a quick Google search shows that the LT6 was a 4.3-liter V6 diesel engine made by GM in the 80s, used in Oldsmobile cars and possibly others. Similarly, the LT7 is also a 4.3-liter diesel V6. This isn't a misdirection by GM, it's just historical information. Looking up LT6 or LT7 will show these older engines, but that doesn't mean the current LT6 or LT7 are the same with the older ones. The rest were clearly past history and obviously another engine. So guys, we've obviously seen a lot of what this guy had researched, but there's still really not something concrete enough to base that initial speculation which triggered this discourse in the first place, or is there? We again will fall back to the research of Supercar Ranch. Like he rightly puts it, if you were to search on Google for a search term like GM turbocharged supercharged patent, you'll find articles which, as it may be, were written by publications which have interest in Corvettes and have written about them. And this very article, link will be in the description, is potentially referring to the C8 Corvette. Now, how does GM manage to add forced induction to a high compression engine like the 5.5 liter? They had to invent and patent something new. And they did. A twin-charged engine that's both supercharged and turbocharged, designed specifically for a high compression engine like the 5.5 liter. In a quick brief, Supercar Ranch goes on to explain how this works. So, he says it's an electronically driven supercharger, not necessarily mechanical, but specifically in this setup, it could go either way, but he believes it'll be electronically driven, powered by a continuously variable transmission. However, this doesn't mean the entire car will have a continuously variable transmission. It's likely to have a similar transmission to existing C8 models. Alongside the small supercharger, there's also a turbocharger. The entire idea is to aid at low RPMs with the supercharger and at high RPMs with the turbocharger. This setup aims to provide consistent boost across the engine's range, offering both low-end power and high-end performance. And although the exact power output is uncertain, it's likely to significantly boost the 5.5-liter high-compression engine, addressing concerns about its ability to handle boost. Now, that's a really interesting way to see things, and I simply had to share it with you guys. What do you guys think? Is this convincing enough, or is it just needless speculation? Do drop your comments below, and just in case you need extra info about this, there's a link to the video on Supercar Ranch in the description. But in other news, here's still something you may have missed about the ZR1.